What's up, everybody? I'm Vince from V1 Productions, and you are watching Arkansas Street Stories. We have a very special guest in the studio today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Marguerite Taggart. I am a person that is in long-term recovery. I will be coming up on 30 years, July 21st of this year. I am. What else you want to know?
Oh, that's good enough. Let's get started. So, Miss Marguerite, let's jump right into it. We ain't gonna keep the people waiting.
Okay.
Tell me about your journey in the streets.
So when you talk about my journey actually started way before I started using drugs. I was a shoplifter. That's what I did. I want to say I probably started shoplifting at the age of 15. Never even really. I knew it was wrong because my mother raised me to know right from wrong, but I never really even thought about it. It's just something that I did. I don't have anybody to actually blame for it. It's just something that I did, and probably about from the age of 15 till I want to say till about the age of 35. That's basically what I did. I had caught a lot of charges, shoplifting and going in and out of jail and all that kind of stuff. I had never been to prison. I didn't really go to prison until I got on drugs. And like in 1983, that's when I decided to start using drugs. So
Okay. So your shoplifting wasn't fueled to by drugs. It's just something that you did.
it was just something that I did.
And drugs was introduced later on.
Right. Well, not necessarily introduced, because you hear about drugs in the street and you know about drugs, but drugs wasn't something that I did. I had moved to Little Rock. I was living in Little Rock when I started doing drugs, and I was dating a guy that was a drug dealer, but it didn't bother me because I didn't do drugs. But during the course of the relationship, you start noticing different characteristics that's not normal, and different actions and different responses to things that you say that's not normal. You think like, what is going on or whatever. And I just happened to walk in on him one day, and he was using drugs, and I was like, what in the world? I knew about drugs, but I had never really, I knew about marijuana. I put it, because all of it is drugs, but I had never really saw crack cocaine in person because, like I said, I didn't do drugs. But when I walked in on him, it was something. I'm saying to myself, what in the world is going on? And I noticed he was start doing stuff he didn't usually do, like staying out all night, kind of being verbally abusive and stuff like that. And then that's when I put two and two together, and I said, well, you got to make a choice between that and me. He said, well, you might well go on and leave now. And I'm thinking, like, what the world is really going on?
What is this?
Yeah, because, back then, hey, I thought it didn't get no better than me. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I would feel the same way, too.
Right, so, but after 2 or 3 months, nothing changed, and I stayed in the relationship. So, like that song Gladys Knight made, I'd rather live in your world and live without you in mine. So that's what happened. So and he never offered it to me. It was a choice that I made. I take full responsibility for my drug use as well as, everything else I ever did because it was my choice, and so when I made the choice to start using, I just started using. So that was that.
So when you started to use, how did your life change? Did you indulge in different activities? I know you was a shoplifter, so what else you did to get that fix?
Well, at first, my life actually didn't change because I wasn't really seeing what it was doing. Because I'm like, I'm trying to see what is this supposed to do, But as I continued to use, I started seeing my thought pattern change, my activities change. I'm having to, like shoplift more because I was already shoplifting. So shoplifting became a thing that I used to support my drug habit. And for the first 3 years, it was terrible. I was just like kind of basically doing things that really wasn't normal, like going into stores constantly. People was buying stuff from me anyway, but it's more or less like it was getting to be more frequent and everything, and so I made a decision that I was going to come back to Pine Bluff, and I did. I came back to Pine Bluff and went to beauty school, got my beauty license. I kind of quit cold turkey, and separated myself from those people, places, and things, and went to beauty school, got a beauty license, started doing hair, started dating another man, and at the time I didn't know he was doing drugs, and so we were good together. But after a certain amount of time, I found that out too, and since I was already trying to recover, wasn't going to no meetings or anything like that. I was just trying not to do what I had been doing, So I just started back hanging with the same crowd, and next thing I knew, I was back out there, And this time it was a whole lot worse. It was like for 13 years, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It was like nonstop shoplifting and in and out of jail and going to prison and disappointing my mother, neglecting my kids, because that's what it was, neglect, because I wasn't being a mother, but I thank God I had already had my kids before I got out there.
Did you have any family support or support from your friends while you was in the streets and they was trying to pull you out the streets?
Well, I ain't gonna necessarily say trying to pull me out the street. Everybody has an opinion, but I have to, tell the Lord, thank you for my mother. My mother knew what I was doing. She never called me a drug addict. She never told me I wasn't welcome. She always made sure that I was safe. She would literally come to the to the drug house and knock on the door. They say, "Girl, your mama at the door," and she would say, "Well, I just came to tell you that when you got tired, you could come home and get something to eat, and you could get some rest." And she always showed me love. Sometimes she would just find stuff for us to do, together or whatever. She had me take her to the store, and the first thing she said, "Don't you get out this car."
She didn't want you stealing.
But I would wait till she go in the store, and then I would go in there and take stuff, and I'd be sitting in the car just as innocent when she get back. But I have to thank, my mother was one of those people, you could just be open and upfront with her, and I appreciate that, even though I wasn't, I was rebellious, I was disobedient. I talked back to my mother, during that time, and just being everything ugly that, I know now that I shouldn't have been. And if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't do it, but I did. So therefore, I can't bury myself in my past. I have to take my past, and I don't dwell in my past, but I take my past and I turn it into something. Instead of being ugly, I turn it into something positive. So, my sisters now, I didn't just necessarily deal with my siblings because they had this thing like, we is not doing that,
So they loved you from a distance.
Right, they loved me from a distance, yeah. And now when you talk about being in the streets, I've walked the streets and I've had to sleep on somebody else's couch and, hey, my addiction, it even took me down the path of taking from my mother, taking from my kids and, from my family. And so, since I've been in recovery, I can appreciate the fact that they didn't want no parts of that, because when I think about it, I don't want no parts of it either. But it's my past, So, being out in the streets, it takes you down that road, that road of destruction that every time you think about it, because every day I think about my past and the things that drugs did to me. One of my job, I work for a company called Exodus.Life, and my job is I'm inside of the adult detention center, and I teach classes like life skills and things like that, and trying to spread hope. And I always go back to where I was when I went there, just trying to let them know that we get better. I know that it takes more for some than to do for others. But for me, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for everything. I tell you, because I was that person that no one, they rather see you going than coming. You know what I'm saying? My name, Marguerite Taggart. Shoes. When I was in the stores, they had my own security code MT, and it took me like 3 years to realize they were talking about me. Wow. They was telling them that I was in the store, and I ain't even got to the store yet. I'm just walking in the mall.
They knew your intentions.
Yes, but since I've been sober and I've learned to respect people and their, all I can say is, Lord, thank you for giving me another chance. Thank you for allowing me to be able to see that ugliness that I had in my life, and being able to just continue every day to do something different and to try to give back and try to make up for the things that I did in life, because it's nothing to be proud of, but I'm not intimidated by it today because it allows me to be able to walk upright and do what I need to do. So,
What was your turning point? I'm tired of the drugs. I'm tired of the street life. I need to do something different. When did that set in for you?
well, I had went to prison 3 times. This third time, I went to prison July 21st, 1996, and I was actually out already on maybe they want to call it where they sentence you to prison, but then they let you out, and I was out, but it didn't change what I was doing. So I caught another charge, and they was putting me in the police car, and my mother was standing there, and I remember like it was yesterday the way she looked. It's like, I can't believe you're going through this again. I can't believe you're doing this again. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't want to do this. And I was already out on an 18-year, out, but they had sentenced me to 18 years. They sentenced me to 18 years for 99 cents. They put on the front page of the newspaper, woman gets 18 years for 99 cents. 99 cents made it a felony. But they gave me I don't remember what kind of bond it was, but I was out. But anyway, I caught another charge. And I went to prison. They just took me straight from the store straight to prison. No questions or nothing, because I was already out on this, whatever this kind of bond I was out on. But anyway.
Well, they probably was down there making your bed up.
Yeah.
They was anticipating and waiting on you.
Exactly. I mean, and I almost want to say that's probably what they thought, because it was like I didn't have a desire to stop. I just doing what, I didn't care. I don't even know how to describe it. I was so low I had to look up to see the ground. But when they took me to prison, that was July 21st, 1996, and my mother passed November the 4th, 1996. And when they came to the prison, they came and got me and took me to the chaplain's office to tell me that my mother was gone. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Because the last time I saw her alive, I was in a police car on my way to prison. And so I told God, I said, Lord, I don't even know how I'm going to get through this. Because I had prayed and told God, Lord, before you take my mama, take me. Because my mama was there for me through everything. Through everything, my mama was there for me. She never disowned me. She never turned me away. But when they came and got me, and God was still in it, because they came and got me, it took me to the hospital. My mother was already gone, but they had cleaned her up and took the tubes and stuff out of her. And when I walked in there, she was just laying there like she was asleep. But she was gone. So, and I apologize, but every time I think about it, I get very emotional, because my mother never got a chance to see me normal, since I've been an adult. But anyway, when they took me and she was in there and she was just laying there, and all I could do was really just cry and talk to her like she was woke. But I told her she'd never, ever have to worry about being disappointed in me again. And that was my turning point. That was you got to do something different. So I told God, I said, Lord, I don't want you to do nothing special for me while I'm here. I just need you to help me to endure whatever I got to go through. Because when I leave, I ain't never coming back. And from that day to this one, I ain't been back. And that was in 1996.
Well, congratulations. I'm going to ask you this, and some people say that prison saved their life. If I told you that statement, what would you tell me?
I would tell it saved my life, because when I went to jail, when I was in that police car, I was just mad because I was going to jail. I didn't think about why I was going to jail. I was just mad. I didn't want to go to jail. Nobody wants to go to jail. But I tell you what, Berlin Jones was the judge that I went in front of. And when I say they gave me 18 years for 99 cents, it was 99 cents that made it a felony. And they sentenced me to 18 years for that. And when you're thinking about your life and you just really just being real with yourself, you think about all the ugly stuff you did and why did you just really try to figure out why did I turn out like this or whatever. But it's choices that I made. And one of the things that I had said I wanted to do when I got out of prison was tell Berlin Jones, thank you. Thank you for saving my life, because if he hadn't sentenced me to prison, I wouldn't have went to prison and I wouldn't have quit. I probably would be dead by now, because I wasn't trying to stop doing what I was doing. But like I said, I realized that my mother was gone, and I had kids, but my oldest daughter had my son, so I couldn't depend on, I got to do something totally different. So, and it's more or less like God just took over, and I just got this mentality like I got to do what I got to do by any means necessary. So that's what I started doing. But when I got out of prison, it was so funny. USA Drugs was still on Hardin Street, and I pulled up over there, and Judge Jones was coming out. And I couldn't get out the car fast enough. And I walked. I said, hey, Judge Berlin Jones, I bet you if I give you $10,000, you can't tell me who I am. He said, your name is Marguerite Taggart. I sentenced you to 18 years in the Arkansas Department of Correction. And I want you to know that's something that I necessarily didn't want to do, but it's something I had to do. I said, well, I just want to tell you thank you. He said, huh?
You agree? You agree with it?
He said, huh? I said, because if you hadn't never sent me to prison, I don't think I'd be alive. I said, but I want to tell you thank you, and I want you to know that I appreciate it, and you ain't got to ever worry about me again. He said, well, I'm glad to hear that.
There you have it, Miss Marguerite Taggart, 2 masters and a PhD from the streets.